in my third Olympics, I remember Al Monaco, our president, we're walking back because that was the first games we didn't play through the finals. So I actually got to explore a little bit in Athens with my family. But we're walking back in the village. He puts his arm around me and he's like, well, thank you so much for everything you've done for the game. And I was like, wait a minute, are you retiring me? I felt like I wasn't done yet. I still had more to offer. And so I came back and made the Beijing Games. And then in that time, I got married. And I had my daughter after those games, like in 2010, I had my daughter. And then I was like, I think I have more to give. So I played in Brazil for a couple of seasons, came back to the national team where no one really believed that I could make it. I was on the third court with, the rookies out there. And they're like, you're not going to make it to the first court. And you know how you're challenged in that way. I was like, bet. Tell me I can, and I'm going to show you what I can do.
Hello, everyone. I am Phoebe Lolik, and I am here with my fellow Olympian co-host,
Sandrine Belliat, at your service.
Yes, and we are here on our first episode of the Shift podcast. Now, the Shift started because Sandrine and I are very passionate about athletes' career transitions, where they leave their wonderful world of sports and they go into the working world.
And we also noticed that a lot of Olympians and athletes are doing amazing things like right now, every day, and we kind of don't know enough what they're doing. So we wanted to highlight it a little bit more.
Exactly. So for our first guest today, you are going to be amazed. We have a 5-time Olympian. I'm talking 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008, and 2012. And she holds the female record for appearing at the Olympics the most in volleyball and male. Yes, female and male record. The wonderful Danielle Scott. Hi, Danielle, and thank you so much for being on the Shift podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is so exciting that I get to be a part, another first, being the first 5-time Olympian for USA Volleyball and for indoor volleyball. There's actually 6, I think, of 5-time Olympians in the world. So pretty cool to be the first on your show.
Of course.
Well, welcome. It's also amazing that we're just filming and recording this in LA, where the games will be in a couple of years. And talking about the games, you did so many games. Can you compare maybe your first and your last games for us? What was that like? Or just the fact that you did 5 Olympic games. What was that like? I can only imagine.
Yeah, I never imagined that I would play in 5 Olympic games. I think the bug to even become an Olympian was a little bit late in my career. I started out, I guess as a sophomore, playing club volleyball. And then by my senior year, I was being recruited. And a reporter asked, do you think you might want to play in the Olympics? Now, that was back in 1990, so that's dating myself a bit, because the 92 games are coming up. I was like, oh, the Olympics, yeah, that could be a thing. I was just excited that I could get a scholarship playing volleyball. And then from winning a national championship at Long Beach State is where I went to college. I was invited to the national training facility to start a tryout. I was named to that team and then made my first Olympics in 96. So that was part of the journey. And then, wow, I was a rookie. So just wide-eyed. It was at home in Atlanta. So that was my first games. And it was just a lot of fun. It was competitive to win a spot, to be on that roster. But it was a lot of fun because it was home. My family was able to come. It was the centennial year in Atlanta. So a lot of great memories for those games. Although I was quiet and shy growing up, I really found personality when they had entertainment in the village. And so was able to get backstage and meet some of the, LL Cool J and Funkadelics and all those different entertainers. You Got a Fast Car, Tracy Chapman.
Wow.
And so it was really fun games. While we didn't finish how we thought we would, everyone's always going for the gold. We ended up being, again, able to compete at our highest. And that is where I, was able to become a starter for the team. Then I made the 2000 games in 2004. And then by that point, I was just like, okay, I'm on this team until I'm not. We hadn't won a medal yet. And so finally in Beijing with Jenny Longping, who's known as the Iron Hammer, we were able to win silver medal there. And then I stopped and had my daughter and was able to come back and make my 5th Olympics. And so, with all that, it was just a fun journey and, really blessed to be able to have competed in 5 Olympics and make all the friends that I did along the way and represent our country.
That is amazing.
I don't know. Did I answer your question?
You
I
did.
talked about a lot of stuff.
It was perfect. It really
I
was.
have a follow-up question though. Like, you did these 5. Did you know, like, was it every Olympics that you thought, oh, this is probably the last, and then you just added one more? Or did you already, like, from the start was like, I would love to do a couple of more, and did you really felt on that last one that was, that you would stop afterwards? Did you, can you talk us a bit through that mentality?
Yeah, I think after I made my first games, there was a desire because of how we finished to be able to come back and play again. Now, I did take a couple-year hiatus and tried out for the WNBA because that was a new thing at the time. Yeah, I made the training roster for Portland Fire my 3rd try. And then after they wanted me to go and get some new stats, I was like, okay, time for me to hang those up and go back to what I know well. And kind of the rest is history. But came back to the team. There was only 2 returning veterans on the team at the time. I was one of them. And then Tara Cross Battle eventually joined us. And we made that team. We played for the bronze and lost. And, when you're competitive, there's always something like that desire to finish better.
Yeah.
Like there's more left to accomplish. And so I think that was a big driving force for me. I didn't think, go in thinking I'm going to play in 10 Olympics or I'm going to break the record. Those weren't the thoughts. It was really competitive and, you want to give a little bit more. And it was about like the enjoyment of the game. I eventually started playing professionally after 96. So being able to explore different countries and learn culture, learn different languages, and then come back and apply those things and grow my game within the USA Gym. And then again, like I said, finally getting a medal. My 4th time was the charm. And I, again, I really didn't think like I'm going to play in another Olympics. It did come a point where I was like, I'm on this team until I'm not, because in my 3rd Olympics, I remember Al Monaco, our president, we're walking back because that was the first games we didn't play through the finals. So I actually got to explore a little bit in Athens with my family. But we're walking back in the village. He puts his arm around me and he's like, well, thank you so much for everything you've done for the game. And I was like, wait a minute, are you retiring me? I felt like I wasn't done yet. I still had more to offer. And so I came back and made the Beijing Games. And then in that time, I got married. And I had my daughter after those games, like in 2009, 2010, I had my daughter. And then I was like, I think I have more to give. So I played in Brazil for a couple of seasons, came back to the national team where no one really believed that I could make it. I was on the 3rd court with, the rookies out there. And they're like, you're not going to make it to the 1st court. And you know how you're challenged in that way. I was like, bet. Tell me I can, and I'm going to show you what I can do. And I think just through that whole process with, I surrounded myself with people who believed in me. I had my prayer warriors, my mom, my sister, my aunt, and, my own belief, going early, how the grind is, be the first one there, finish last, get another workout in. And then I was blessed to make my last Olympic Games. And then at that point, everyone's talented. It just really came down to, what type of teammate you can be. And I think that kind of differentiated my making the team versus not. But it was a heck of a journey and really blessed to have had the experience. I think I started to focus a little bit more on getting to know my teammates better. There was a big transition in when I started where it was a battle. It wasn't any competition where it came to be towards the end of my career. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great journey. It was a difficult journey. My salary was cut. My family wasn't really welcomed in the gym. It's different now, but a lot of little things that I think a person without determination might have given up. right? But I believe that I could give more to the team. I believe that there was more for me to do within the program. We had like Bible study. I'm a woman of faith, so being able to share with other teammates, things that I was going through, and be able to have our Bible studies together and talk about things, and you know what our image is. If I were to make the team or not, it wasn't in making those games, but I still could have who I am show up until I was no longer on the team. But I happened to make it. Yeah.
That is wonderful. What a journey. Now, I want to take you back to that last Olympic Games. I mean, we've been through the games. We know the closing ceremony happens. And did you know that 2012 was your last games? And what happened right after? What was your mentality around that transition?
Sure. Winning the silver is always tough because you lose the gold. So in the moment, it was hard. Like the first silver that we won in Beijing, I probably was not a great sport. I was just sad in the moment, really, because we just lost. We were so close. And I think, sometimes we emphasize too much on winning the gold instead of going, enjoying the process. And that's where I was. I was like, okay, I want to come back. So even after having my daughter and coming back, and we made the finals again, and we ended up losing, I was like, okay, going for 6, because I felt like at that point I was in really great shape of my life. Was I older? Yes. But I still felt like there was something I could contribute to the team. And I didn't think it was my last, but I think everything happens for a reason. And in hindsight, I could see that. And so I played my last professional season in Brazil, preparing to be a 6-time Olympian and finally get that elusive gold. But I think God had other plans. And our coach at the time went a different direction. And it gave me time to be a mom because I could focus on just enjoying my daughter. And then I discovered that my mom's cancer had come back. So I had time to be with her last days and take care of my mom. So everything happens for a reason. My intention was to go to the 6th Olympics, but when things like that start to happen, you reprioritize things. And so everything's a blessing.
Of course. And I think that's what we really want to discuss here at this podcast. It's actually making these shifts. So, for example, because you had so much shifts in your life, you were an active athlete, then you're a mom, you're a caregiver for your own mother. How do you see these role changes as shifts as well? Or did you just take that athlete's attitudes within these roles? How would you look at that?
Yeah, I think when I thought about transitioning out of volleyball, I thought I had more time still. Like even in my career, I was like, I want to go back to school. And then with the double days and stuff, I was like, okay, I'll do that later. I'll put it off. I really appreciate how some athletes now, they get a 5th year, and so they can even start doing their masters. So while I didn't continue in my education, I always thought my fallback could be coaching. That was somewhat of a plan, if you say that's a plan, but not really. I hadn't prepared myself for anything beyond being an athlete. And I think maybe there weren't as many resources available or that I knew to take advantage of during the time. So that's kind of a travesty, but I think there's more awareness and more resources now. But I think I took more of the attitude, okay, what's next, And I think sports prepare you for that because you're always trying to better the smallest detail. You're always trying to grow in some kind of way in your game. And so with that, I was able to initially get back involved with USA Volleyball through what was then called the High Performance Program. So it was coaching, right? But then I was still missing something there, and Primerica found me. So I went to an opportunity meeting. Primerica is a financial company that has insurance and securities, investments. And so I went to an opportunity meeting, and I said, if this person prays at the end of this, I'm signing up. and he said a prayer, and I started going to Wednesday Bible studies with that. And so it's this whole team thing because it's really competitive, environment. But it's all about helping people with financial awareness and leaving legacies. Which when you play in the Olympic Games, you hope to leave where you were in sports better. And so this was another way that I could have a team around me and give back and do something meaningful in my community.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And I love to hear that career transition, the mentality of looking at it as now I have time to do other things. So I want to ask you the mentality it takes to be a 5-time Olympian. Do you feel like those skills are transferable that you now use in your day-to-day life?
I definitely think it is. I feel like in as an athlete, you're challenged in so many different ways. I think today there's a little bit more of life and work balance, but I think in my career was really just singular focus, and you have one goal, and you plan your steps according to how you can reach that, and that's definitely things that are applicable within real life, and having a job. As an athlete, sometimes you don't think about how you're communicating with your team and how you're getting along with all these different personalities. Those are things that you're going to have to face in the workforce. And so I definitely think it's transferable and has been helpful in my journey where now I'm working with League One Volleyball. It's a professional volleyball year. We're in our second season, and I'm one of the leads in talent acquisition. So now I'm going out there recruiting that best talent, not only in the United States, but across the world, as in terms of athletes, in terms of coaches. And then this year, we've restructured. And so I have a new responsibility of being sometimes game day manager. I could be the game day competition director. And so there's always different challenges, which I love within League One Volleyball. And it's part of growth. And I think that's how you continue to get better, how you enjoy life, and when you can challenge yourself in different areas.
And are there like certain values that you were like, okay, as a team player in volleyball, I loved working with certain like team members. And now that I'm working with colleagues and hiring people, I'm also looking out for certain values or some certain fits with yourself. Is that still a thing? Or was that just a new chapter? Like, no, today it's nothing with volleyball. Like, it's there's a different setting, so it's a different situation. How do you look at that?
Yeah, I think a huge part of who I am is my faith and and belief. And so I think I take a lot of that into my work, my belief in myself, my belief in other people, my belief that a lot of things are meant for the good. You just have to find that, what it is. So when faced with challenges, instead of saying, no, this is too hard, I go back to, okay, I believe we can do this. Okay, let's sit down and see how we can figure it out. And I think that's something that I take into my work, and I think that's what I look for in people, like someone, and if they don't have it, how can I inspire it? And bring out the good and help people see the best in themselves and how they can bring good into whatever the situation or the project that we are doing.
Now, Danielle, we know each other from sharing this awesome moment at the Paris Fashion Show party organized by the amazing Angela Ruggiero. And I know that you're also like, you do a lot for good causes. Like Angela organized that to really put a bit of a spotlight on the first gender equal games. I know you do a lot of public speaking. Which messages do you often want to give to children, to people that you speak with? What are mainly the messages that you made, because you had a lot of adversity in your life, that maybe you kind of want to share with younger audience, for example?
Yeah, I love to give the message that, you can believe to do and then become. And, obviously there's not just belief, you have to have action behind it, that therefore that's to do and then become, that we're always becoming, and that it's okay to not reach where you want to be right away. It's a process and everybody's journey is different. But I really like to share that, to believe, to do, and become are is really kind of the path, that there's no secret in life for success. It takes, determination, it takes hard work, it takes discipline, and just really being a great human to help you kind of succeed. So that's part of the message. I have faced a lot of adversity in being divorced, and it's not something that you set out for, but for women that happens, and sometimes it's traumatic because I faced a lot of uh, what I thought would be judgment. How will people look at you, and it's the same like in sports when you fail. What do people say? To really know that those failures, there are always lessons within that, and how can you overcome? So the message of overcoming, to use your superpower, whatever that might be, to achieve one's Olympic-sized dream. It doesn't have to be the Olympics, but whatever it is, if you are awkward, that can be your superpower. You still can achieve what you want. Also, I mean, I had a really horrible experience where there was domestic violence in the family. And so when I have the opportunity to share a message about domestic violence and maybe some things to look for, because sometimes you don't know. When you don't know, people can kind of hide what is personal to them. But going through that, I try to share some things that maybe I missed. So I have a lot of different topics that I can speak to, especially after having a long career and just living life. We all go through our different experiences, and whether you touch one person or you touch many people, I think we have those experiences so that we can share and help people in their journey that might have a shared experience.
Because you touched on so much amazing things, like at the start of our conversation as well, the fact that people are often so focused on winning, but that for you, maybe winning is way more than the conventional, like maybe what kids learn of like, no, winning is just that the goal, achieving your goal. Do you notice that your mindset toward that, like towards what a win is, changed as well through all your journey, or?
Yeah, I think as I continued to play, the focus wasn't on just the outcome, but it was along the journey as well, because it goes so fast. If you're always focusing on just the target, of course, you have to have that, then you lose the joy of like smelling the flowers along the way. And so I think in my journey, I did learn to like take time and enjoy the moments with my teammates.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I was tired, at that point, I had my daughter, like, I don't want to go hang out. I don't want to go watch movies. So I was like, oh, yeah, I do want to go do this because, this is important as we build relationships, and, it helps the chemistry on the court. And, while I wasn't thinking that specifically, that is the outcome. Like, you have each other's back and things. So defining what a win is, the smaller wins along the way until you get to your ultimate outcome, I think is important, but to enjoy the small wins along the way and to celebrate those things.
Yeah, that's absolutely important. And as you shared that you like to give back to people by sharing any life lessons that you could help them along the way. We know the whole athlete transition is a big thing in the Olympian community, because we all have to make that stop one day of leaving our wonderful world when all the lights go off, and now you have to look at your new normal.
Hmm.
And so when you look back to your time of transitioning, what advice would you give to an Olympian who is transitioning, or one who is going to transition, that could have helped you maybe cut down the time you sort of stayed down in that transition period? Like, so what is it that you would have done differently to speed up the transition process or make it a bit smoother for you?
Yeah, I love that today that there is a lot of openness and mentorship
Yeah.
that's out there. I definitely would have had more mentors in my life, and things that I might have been curious about, so that I could, you know, dabble in it a little bit. Now, with especially like the way our league is, there's time before going to the national team and there's time before going to the professional league. So there's some moments that you can use towards your personal development. I would have done that a little bit sooner. But definitely getting mentors, experimenting in things that I might have some curiosity about, because there's a lot more hours in a day than I think we think of, you know, um, in between our trainings and, having to recover and all the other, there are moments that we can take to think about what our future would look like.
And maybe just a quick note on the future, because we've been like looking back a lot. What can we wish you for the next couple of years? What is like the next goal or the next thing that we can wish you?
Oh, the next thing that I'm looking forward to. Well, currently, like I've mentioned a few times, I'm working with League One Volleyball. That's where a lot of my time is spent. So I'm looking how I can help, make that the best league ever. We've already seen as the number one league by the FIVB in the United States. So by bringing great talent and the way that we're growing all the partnerships. So that's one thing I want to help, grow, continue to grow and develop. I'm looking forward to obviously LA 28 to see how I can help give back and participate in all those events and things that are coming forward. I'm the chapter president for Louisiana, so looking forward to doing our Olympic days and just shedding the Olympic spirit and the movement within the community. And just, I don't know, there's probably a lot more things, but those are a couple things that come to mind right away.
Maybe we should wish you 28 hours in a day or something, or 8 days in a week.
We all need
Yeah.
that.
So Danielle, we've been talking about all your achievements and obviously Hall of Fame volleyball. Like, it's crazy, but people might not know that, but you're also a coach for your daughter. She's 15, if I remember well. Like, how is that like?
Yeah, it's been fun coaching her. So yeah, she's 15. I get to coach her high school and club teams. And I've always been conscious about, coaches who coach their kids who are too hard on their kid or too soft on their kid. So I came into coaching her being aware that I didn't want to be too hard. I didn't want to be too soft. I just wanted to be fair, like treat her like the other kids. And so when we're in the gym together, she calls me coach. In the beginning, it was hard. She would call me Coach Mom. I was like, no, just coach.
That's so cute.
Yeah. But it's been really fun coaching her, and, being playing any sport at a high level, having a kid to follow in your footsteps, it's really difficult, right? So I put her in all kinds of activities. I put her in drama and piano, like all the arts. And she did basketball and softball. And then I put her in volleyball camps and clinics here and there. And then finally in sixth grade, she was like, Mom, I want to play on a team. My heart went pitter patter. I was like, let's go, let's do it. But I think, it's important to be able to communicate on how you feel and be able to give space on different moments and emotions that might be happening. We mutually decide, like, if she wants me just to be mom and on a car ride home and don't want to talk about things, sometimes it's really hard not to say what I just saw, but I have to swallow it down and be like, okay, let's talk about something else or nothing at all. And then also, if there's moments where she might want to mouth back, but she doesn't do that. But like, in her frustration, might take a heavy sigh. Then I'll be like, Giuliani. And, she'll know.
Awesome.
But I would do the same thing with another of her teammates if,
Yeah.
if they were behaving in that way. But I'm blessed with a beautiful daughter. She's bright. She's kind and compassionate. So I hope to see her do a lot of fun things in life. I think for her, she had a great expression from young that she was going to do something great in life, whatever that is, especially when people would start to compare and say, hey, you're going to be like your mom. She's like, I'm going to be great in something like my mom. So I think that's really cool when kids can identify that they can have their own achievements and greatness, and it doesn't have to be the exact, again, path that their parents are doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cute. And is that something you also learned from your parents? Did they also, when you had these big ambitions, but also maybe a lot of pressure from people saying, oh, wow, you're at 16 already so good. Like, people put easily pressure on the young athletes. Did you learn also from that, from your experiences when you were that age? Or
Yeah, I think I learned a lot from my parents, just the idea of work ethics. My mom worked 2 jobs when I was growing up, and my dad was always, working too while we weren't in the same household. I saw him working hard, I saw my mom working hard. And, I found sports, as a quiet kid that automatically gave me a sense of belonging. And I always had this kind of internal drive to try to be the best I can at what I was doing, whether academically or in sports. But I think for sure, the work ethic came from my parents. The faith in believing that I can do anything, I think was instilled from my mom. And it's funny when I say you can do anything. My daughter made this song from young, and I remind her, I recorded her, and she's saying this song. You can do anything from your heart with your
Oh, that's
life.
so cute.
She was 4 years old, and so in moments where she has doubt, I was like, "Hey, let's listen to that song you made it for." And she's like, "Mom." But it's really interesting when kids are growing up and they say certain things. Rather it is something positive, it can stick with them. And if it's negative, it can too, but you can kind of shift things around with having different conversations and showing them, the other side of it. So,
I
That's
kind of want that
awesome.
tune now for a podcast.
That you can do
Oh,
anything.
totally.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
I
she was
think,
singing with a lot of passion too. It was
yeah.
so cute.
I think it's amazing that she is growing up with a mom who has so much tenacity and drive to go for 5 Olympics. And I'm also a mom of 2 wonderful boys. And I also find myself not doing the pushing into one direction.
hmm
But I also think those mindset skills that are instilled in us as Olympians, just that you can do anything if you put
Right.
your mind to it, or don't quit something you started. How do you have fun with that? Or how do you sort of rephrase those values, those Olympic values, in teaching her when it comes to everything else she's involved in?
Yeah, I just try to encourage her to find things that she enjoys.
Yeah.
And then I think it's easy for you to really go put your 100% in it when you find something you're passionate about. And then to try and explore different things. And if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Give your best effort at it.
Yeah.
Ask questions. No one's going to be great in the beginning, right? You're going to fail at things, but if you can ask questions and give your 100%, then eventually you can get to where you want to be, or figure out that, okay, that's not for me. I'm going to do something else.
And she's never like, oh no, here we go again. Another story of one of the many Olympics from my mom. And you're like a bit like giving examples of your own life, or she's just, yeah, that doesn't happen that much that you give like for her coaching or like in her education, that you give like examples of your own Olympics and your Olympic cycles.
Yeah, I think it's important to let her hear other voices too. So I'm blessed to be working in a field that there's 90 athletes who 75% in our league have national team experience or played, at a high level professionally. So she hear me when I'm recruiting, and sometimes she's connected with some of those athletes, and so she'll be able to talk to them. Or when I'm coaching with the NTDP, which is a National Training Development Program for the USA Volleyball Pipeline. She'll come to some of those, and she's connected with, Courtney Thompson, with, Corley Lord, who are setters in her position, or with Kim Druniak, different athletes, and they get to have their little powwows, and actually they'll do video calls or things. So she gets to hear other voices so that she doesn't get drowned out with the things that I'm saying. Like she'll hear it from someone else and be like, oh, okay. And sometimes just hearing it from someone else, a light bulb goes off because you're hearing it in a different way, perhaps. The same thing, the same meaning. So I think it's important to have like mentors and other people that can share the same message, but in a different way.
You spoke a lot about the importance of having good mentors. And I think often in the conversations that we have with athletes, we look at the sacrifices that the athletes make. But like you said, your mom has had 2 jobs. Like there are a lot of people around us that also make these big sacrifices. Are there one or more key people in your life that you really say like, yes, this person really made a lot of sacrifices to help me become the person that I am now?
Yeah, I think definitely my parents, my mom, like you said, I mentioned earlier, she worked 2 jobs. And, oftentimes I would wonder, like, well, how come you can't come in and watch my games? Like, because she was working. But I think also like the different coaches who believed in me. Um, maybe it wasn't necessarily a sacrifice on their side, but it was something that helped me believe in myself and keep pushing because you also always want to like do your best for someone who's believing in you.
Yes.
So I think coaches are important. They have a role in helping athletes become their best selves in not only the sport, but just as a person and just enjoying what they do and getting the best of themselves out of that. So that, like we talked about earlier, it's a transferable skill. Like when you have that belief, when you make it through difficult times, when you overcome, when you help someone else be their best, these are all things that you can take, into life, to real life.
So we've been talking a lot about overcoming challenges and adversity. Do you feel that you became an Olympian because you were good at bouncing back, at being resilient? Or do you feel like that is a skill that everybody can learn? And did you grow into that? Was that really something that you acquired along the way?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, did I become an Olympian because of my resilience, or is it a skill that can be learned? I think it's a combination. Growing up, seeing my mom, go through difficult moments, you know, you can't help but have that be a part of you, to have the don't give up attitude. But also, I think it's could be learned also in that when you face a challenge, if you don't give up, that's a deposit in the bank towards building resilience. So I think it can be learned if you, especially are in the right situation, you have the right people around you encouraging, and you receive that message like, no, you've got this. So then it goes back to the belief. When you have belief in something, you can be resilient through it. When you're passionate about something, you can be resilient through it. So I do believe it can be something that is learned, but I think also there's got to be a certain level of grit and determination
Yeah.
already within you.
Yeah.
But it can be grown. The flame can be, what's the word? It can be
Ignited.
ignited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we literally had a conversation like that today about the everything happens for a reason theory.
Oh,
While
no,
on
the
our long
toast
drive,
theory.
it was around the burnt toast theory, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was trying to say the same dream that everything happens for a reason. For me, I think when you have a moment, whether it's about adversity or something difficult, you get to choose your action within that moment.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, a deposit into the bank, you're telling your mind and your body who you are based on that decision.
Mhm.
And then once you do that, you're like, this is who I am now.
Yeah.
And your mind remembers that it kind of updates your belief system that I'm a person who can push through. Whereas I feel like if you don't push through and maybe it's just too tough, you could come across certain situations in the future and you will have, again, to choose that moment. So absolutely, I agree with you that resilience, while it can be, I guess, almost like born with it. So some of us just have a little bit of fight in
Yeah.
us, extra fight, But I do think every moment you get a choice to
Mhm.
choose who you want to be.
Yeah,
I agree.
and there's lots of moments to train it.
Exactly.
Whether it's a simple something, you spill something on your shirt. Oh, now I'm not going to go out because I can't wear the outfit that I wanted. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something very trivial.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, okay, well, I'm just going to go change it. And it's like, okay, you've learned how to problem solve.
Yeah.
Now you can go out. I mean, that was something really simple. But it could be something more dramatic. Everything happens for a reason. Like, so now your tragedy can be a message for someone else when you make your way through it.
Yes.
So yeah, everything happens for a reason. It's not always for your best good, but when you learn from it, there's something from it, and then you can also share that with someone else.
Absolutely.
So that is basically what we talk about when driving to podcasts recordings, like those theories and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we do, people.
Yeah,
When
that's
there's
right.
traffic in LA, we say, you know what? It's happening for a reason. We're just going to enjoy it. And
Philosophical discussions with Phil and Sandrine.
That traffic in LA could be keeping you from an accident that was about to happen.
I literally
And now the
said
circle
the
is
same
around.
thing. I was telling her that today. Everything is happening for a reason because you get to shift within that moment, whether it's your mindset or your positioning.
And thanks to
Yeah,
the traffic
love
and the
that.
conversation we had, now we ask this question. So yes, the circle is round. Okay, Phoebe, admit I was wrong on
Okay,
talking
I
about.
win.
You're right.
I win. Oh wow, Danielle, your story is so amazing, and we are so grateful that we got to just experience your journey with you by you sharing it with us and with our guest. Is there any last words you have for our Olympian community that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think I would share for anyone who is already in the journey of being an Olympian, to know that they're enough. Like, to enjoy the moment, that you're already enough. You don't have to worry about what other people might be saying. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy and being so hard on ourselves. Of course, you need something that's going to drive you, but really make sure you have a balance of, what your drive is, but still knowing that you're enough, that whatever you're doing, you're already, your identity shouldn't be in that thing, that your person, your character is already enough.
Right. And there you have it. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to just share your story with us. And we enjoy learning about your journey. And I'm Phoebe Lolik. Thank you to the wonderful Danielle Scott. And this is my co host, Sandrine Villiet. And we are
The Shift.
And see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.